our in each parameter, we are not going to end ever. So
exactly.
I think it's very important to discuss the important things and do it in not so much time, because we want to have a lot of people in this call. Oh, there is a lot of people already. We want to have a lot of people in this calls, and if we extend the discussion too much, it's not going to work.
Yeah, and for context, I'm hoping that we can take Zeptimus's lovely video
Yes.
that he makes for us all the time. Thank you, Zep. And break it into at least some timestamps and post them in the forum so people can just get a quick like download. And so if we have like a 5-minute cap on each thing and then move on, maybe we can talk about the ones that are like, if we like stay on that cap, at the end, we'll have extra time to talk about the ones that were most important. Does that sound good? Okay, we're holding to a 5-minute cap. Okay, and we can even be faster if we want. Okay, but let's start with a very quick round. If you don't mind me taking over, Jake, or do you want to take it?
Well, I guess you're on a roll. I guess rock and roll. Go ahead. 1, 2, 3. There you go.
Sorry, man. We always start with an intro to get everyone talking. So I want to say, name your favorite parameter. So that's the intro question. My favorite hatch parameter is impact hours. I'm pretty excited about the cultural build tribute and impact hours. I'll pass it to Livia.
That's such a hard question. What are all the parameters? Okay, my favorite parameter is. Can you do like a refresh?
Yeah.
Like, let's make a list of all the parameters.
I am sharing the screen.
Yes.
Maybe.
Okay, sorry, so unprepared.
So there's hatch min-max goals, hatch time limit, hatch tribute, vesting, the refund, and impact hours.
Okay, I will say vesting, just because I'm curious about how that's gonna work, and I'll pass to Sam.
Okay, I think that vesting is also my favorite parameter. Since I saw grief, investing is very important. It's kind of a meme, and I like vesting because of that. We probably are going to call it locking from now on, but I think that it's very important too. I am going to pass it to Jake.
Dandelion voting. That's what I'm excited about. I want to see how this works out with this Moloch style and everything. That's my favorite parameter. Yeah. And the fact that it's a dandelion, and that just makes it seem like, hey, this might work. That's pretty, you know. Anyways, I'm going to pass it off to Santi.
I'm going to go for minimum cap. I want our minimum cap to be a nice amount of funds jumping into the funny pool. So since that hasn't been mentioned yet, I'll go for minimum cap. I don't know if there has to be min and max cap altogether, but it's fine. And I'll pass it to Zeptimus.
Hello, guys. The parameter I'm more interested for is the impact hours. So we will see how that impacts the community, and yeah, and we share some love at everyone. And I'll pass it to Tamara.
Thanks. I'm going to third, I guess, impact hours, because I think it's crucial to bringing more people in and appreciating everything that everyone has done and all the contributions that every person has made to this. And I'll pass it to hasn't gone?
Tonga?
Tonga?
Hey guys, my favorite is hatch time limit because that was the first thing we did with Bridge, and it was really cool to start to understand everything. Yeah, I think we all went.
I
Is
think
that everybody?
Julio.
If I can go, I like to do an introduction to all
Wait,
the.
Julio didn't get to go if he's still here.
Okay.
No?
Who is going to go?
Okay, Craig, really quick. You just joined.
I
Oh
am
no,
coming back
Julio.
home. I will be there in 5 minutes, so I'll
Okay,
speak later. Sorry.
no problem.
Okay.
And Craig, what's your favorite hatch parameter? You're muted. Yeah, there you
Vesting cliff.
go. Vesting cliff. Boom. Okay, sorry, Sam. You can go for it.
Okay, I'd like to do a quick introduction to all the parameters, so we can be all in the same page. I think that these meetings are also to explain all the parameters in a video, so people can then go and grab whatever is everything. And I'm going to begin with the hatch min and max goals. We are requesting some funds in the hatch, and we can set up a minimum and a maximum goal. And there is a discussion if we want to set the minimum and maximum goal the same. So everything is much more deterministic. If we know how much we are going to get, we can then understand better what is going to be in the future, the economy. So we can set up an initial price and a final price in the bonding curve, things like that. But it's also interesting to have a minimum and a maximum goal. The minimum has to be at least the minimum amount that we want, that we need, that we are going to need in order to begin the commons. And we have to have into account that there is also hatch tribute over here that it's also going to affect how much money we are going to have in the funding pool. If we have a hatch tribute that it's very, very high, and it goes to the funding pool, then maybe the minimum can be lesser, because even if we get not much funds, we will have enough funds to have in the funding pool and start with the proposals. But as we will discuss later, that tribute is also very important, not to be very into one side or the other, because also it is a trade-off between the reserve and the funding pool. So the idea is that minimum is related with hatch tribute, and the max goal also has its things. If we could set a very high max, the maximum max that we have been discussing in legal is around $1 million. It could be or max perfectly. The problem is that if we reach $1 million in the hatch period, we initialize the bonding curve with a very high value and a lot of minted tokens. So the benefits of the hatchers, the hatchers, if you see that in that way, the hatchers are the ones that can buy at the beginning of the bonding curve, and they obtain the tokens at the best price. If we set a very high maximum and we reach that maximum, well, actually with the minimum it also happens the same. If we have a lot of funds in the hatch, the people at the beginning of the hatches are not going to obtain the maximum benefits of being hatched. They are going to be that, okay, I bought that, and that's okay. So it's something interesting to have into account. And maybe we want a max goal that is not that high. We can continue with the.
Hey, Paulo, can you mute for a second, Paulo?
We can continue with the hatch time, in
Well,
which we
you
have.
know, just because that was already 3 minutes on the hatch thing, maybe we could just give like some people ask. Does anyone have any questions about?
Yeah.
We'll break each one into the 5-minute segments.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions on hatch min and max goals or thoughts?
I asked in the forum already, but I was wondering if the maximum expected or the maximum possible isn't reached, if it is not possible that people from other origins or like from that people that haven't contributed can invest, or is it? Do you understand the question?
I think that the idea is in the hatch to have the people who we want in the hatch, and very selected people. Not everyone who wants to buy a random token, and we later will be able to get those people in, the people who wants just a token because it's cool, but maybe that doesn't understand the community.
How do you expect? Oh, go ahead, Livia.
Why do we need to have a max?
Well, the idea is that we split it in two, minimum and maximum, because as it was, minimum and maximum was the same. And it was just the goal. If we didn't reach the goal, the funds were refunded. But it makes things like, okay, or we reach the goal or not. It's very binary, the thing. And now we have a range.
We will, no matter what, we will have a max because you have to have CStack tokens to buy in. And so there'll be a CStack token like price, like not price for CStack tokens, but there'll be a certain number of CStack tokens, and any one of that many CStack tokens can buy in a certain amount. So no matter what, there will be a max.
Yeah, probably we could also discuss the ratio in which people can put. I mean, it's also a parameter that we have to discuss. It's actually a parameter. It was not in the agenda, but it's also a parameter that we have to discuss, probably in this call. The ratio in which you can buy in the hatch with your 60K tokens.
Can I add to that line of questioning as well? Why? So let's say there will definitely be a max based on the amount of C tokens that exist. But let's say the max is a different number, and or we reach that number. Then what happens if we reach the maximum number? Do we just stop accepting new hatchers?
Yes, there is this time limit, in which if we have reached the minimum and the time limit, we are open. We have finished. But if before the time limit is ended, we reach the hatch, the maximum goal, we are also ended. Yeah, so there is that cap.
Yes, I think that
I want to keep moving. We hit our 5-minute mark. Let's go to the next
time limit.
Okay.
Yeah, I think. Can I talk for a second?
Yeah.
Yes, even if that's how it works, I think that's like limiting our like the people who want to invest in us. Why?
We should talk about that later. And if you want, I can even give you a deep dive into the trusted seed and why it's important to limit the governance power to people who care about token engineering public goods. But we can talk about that in a little bit. In fact, actually, Tonga, do you want to present hatch time limit since it is your baby?
I should have to open the forum first.
Well, here, we'll
someone
let
else
you
can-
maybe.
maybe.
Yeah, Sam, you can go for it, and then Tonga can follow.
Okay. Well, basically, I was asking Tonga if he wanted to present. Actually, the hatch time limit is how much time do we want to give the people to buy into the hatch, and this actually the forum post is quite good because we have a lot of people talking about that, and as you can see. And the idea is that we have been talking about 30 days more or less, 45, 15, but it's around 30 days. Also the idea is that in Kickstarter crowdfundings, people is donating at the beginning of the campaign and at the end of the campaign. So even if we extend the limit, people is not donating linearly. It's not like there are those deadlines. And I think that that decision should be made in the communication group. How much time they want to be shooting the hatch? If they are going, if they want to do a flash campaign or they want to do an extended campaign. I don't know if that should be entirely discussed here, because I think that it depends actually. Maybe we can open it to the rest.
Yeah, Tonga, did you have any comments you wanted to make on top of that?
Yes, that because I wasn't sure about who could invest, and since there were some doubts whether we were going to reach the minimum, I didn't know the minimum and the maximum were the same, but I was thinking that some people I know that don't know from the project much yet, they would take more time to trust the project to be able to invest. But if we are like looking for people that are already working in the project to invest, then what I was saying doesn't make sense.
Questions?
Okay, let's score the extra time then, and move on to hatch tribute discussion.
Okay. Okay, in the case of hatch tribute, at the end of the hatch, we have funds, and we are splitting them into two votes. One vote is for the reserve, and the other one is for the conviction voting funding pool. So you can see that as the Federal Reserve, as the bank that holds the gold and gives value to the currency, and another fund that it's the general. How is it called? Budget. The general budget for the state. So if we have a lot of budget for the state, then our money is worthless. But if we give a lot of value to the money, we don't have enough funds to do anything. And kind of that's the dilemma. And we didn't discuss it very much. And I actually don't have so much information on that, because we didn't test it so much either. I think that this is one of the most important parameters that we have to discuss, and we have not much info. one thing to have into account.
Does anyone?
One more thing. One thing that we have to have into account is that there are only going to be two methods to fund the funding pool, and this is one of them. The other one is the exit tribute. So it's very important to have a lot of funds at the beginning. And yeah, the thing is that you have to change the strategy later if we don't have so much funds here. So somebody else would like to say something?
I would actually know what's the other method, the exit. You say how is it working? Like how it founds the pool?
So there's an exit and an entry tribute, and anytime someone buys or sells into the bonding curve, we can charge a fee that funds. So basically, speculation and volatility will fund the funding pool as well.
Awesome, thank you.
Thoughts on exit tribute?
No, it's on the hatch tribute.
Sorry, hatch tribute.
I have one question that may or may not be related. But what happens when an exchange, if an exchange decides to trade our token? How is that price on the exchange may affect our price on the bonding curve, if it does at all?
This can be discussed in the next meeting. It's very interesting, but we are going to discuss it in the next meeting because we will discuss if we want a transferable or non-transferable token.
Yeah, because I think legal will probably not want to start with it transferable. So that means that other exchanges can't even have it.
Okay, so some more thoughts on that? I think that
so I think it's what you said at the beginning is really important, that we want to start out with enough funds in the pool to achieve something. And so I feel like the hatch tribute plus the min goal are going to be really determined by how many proposals we have at the start. And that will help us come up with a number that we can say, oh, we want to fund at least half of these proposals with our money. We want to have the money to at least fund half of these proposals, or something like that, and have that as the mindset. It's like, what do we want to do with our funds? And then that means that will determine the hatch tribute and the min goal. There'll be like a balancing act there that I have to.
I think that we don't have enough info then for thinking on a tribute right now. When are we going to discuss about that? Because if we keep delaying the discussion, we are not going to launch EVA.
Well, so maybe this is a good interlude to just say, at least the goal is that we have a lot of proposals or several proposals of all of the parameters, and that, because group decisions are very hard, you need an individual generally to propose one full decision and then aggregate the signals of the group. So the goal is that there's discussion, so that people who want to propose parameters will be informed by that discussion when they're looking at all the parameters they're choosing. But then we will all need to vote on which holistic thing we want, because in the end, all of these parameters affect each other. So we can't really just pick, we want it to be this, because if the exit tribute's really low, then you really need the hatch tribute to be huge, right? So
my worry here is that if we take too much into decide what parameters we want, we will end up launching very, very late or not launching at all. And maybe sometimes it's preferable to set up parameters that are not very well thought than not setting that not launching at all. I don't think that Satoshi was thinking every 10 minutes or every 12 minutes a block.
No, of course. The strategy for picking parameters is that I'm going to propose some parameters. I'm sure you will propose some parameters, Sam. I'm sure we could get Zargum to propose some parameters, right? And we'll propose the entire spec. So Jake and I are going to make sure that we have an entire spec that matches your test rehearsal hash. That's or your test rehearsal. And then we will from that spec, people can just tweak each parameter and propose it to the group. So we'll have lots of options of holistically designed parameterizations. And then we will just set a vote when it's time to hatch. When all the other requirements, when legal's done, onboarding's done, everybody else is done, we can set a vote and pick one. Sorry, Olivia.
What's up, Olivia? You got a question?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I understand what is the hatch tribute. So that is going to be the percentage of how much from the hatch amount is distributed between the reserve and the funding pool. And then
yes.
The amount that goes to the reserve makes sure that the token is more valuable if it's higher than the funding pool. But then if it goes to the funding pool, we'll know that it can fund more projects. But if we're going to have a vesting period, would that even matter to have like a very large reserve in the beginning? Wouldn't it be better to have more projects being funded so we strengthen the trust in the project, considering that the tokens will be vested anyways, and then we'll attract more people to buy the tokens or to donate once the hatch is over, and then that would like have a better equilibrium.
I think that this is a very good point. I don't know. I really don't know, but I think that it's a good point.
Wouldn't a lot of it depend on the bonding curve?
Exactly. The negative side of that is the people who get tokens don't get very many tokens, and so there's the hatch tribute will also affect the hatch. Will also be affected by the hatch price and specifically the opening price. It will affect what the open price is. So like, let's say that you have to put in let's say we have a hatch tribute of 90%. You put in $10,000 or like we raise $10,000, 1,000 goes to the bonding curve, 9,000 goes to the funding pool. That $1,000 might create $3,000 worth of tokens. And the people, we won't get very many hatchers because they put in 10,000 and only get 3,000 back. So it's really easy to attract hatchers when you put in 10,000 and then you get 15,000 back. It's like, wow, I can donate to token engineering public goods and make a profit. That's crazy, you know? And that's the other side of it. Okay, we should definitely move on now.
Can we get to vesting, Cliff, and vesting complete?
Okay, let's go with the next one. Those two are going to be, I don't know if we have a good explanation here or not. Okay, it's a long one. I thought that we would have I don't know if we have the graph here of the cliff or not. I think we don't have it. It's a pity. Basically, the vesting is a line. Oh, sorry, I'm so sorry. I don't have it prepared. I have something like that. We have a period in which we cannot move the tokens. That's the cliff, and that's the vesting. Maybe we don't want that cliff, and we want to have a period in which we cannot move any of the tokens, and from a certain amount of time we can begin to move some of them, like this, without that high cliff here. That's something that we can make with two vestings instead of one, because this is the actual form of what is implemented, but we can use something else. No, usually it's like this. The first year you cannot move anything, and from there you have this cliff and begin to move, to be able to move during a period in which you end up being able to move all your funds. That's the idea. So the most important thing is how much time do we want to be vesting or be locking, actually, the tokens. Being locked means that you cannot do anything else than voting. So you can vote on Dandelion voting, you can vote on conviction voting, but that's all what you can do with your tokens. If we go to the startup world, we see vestings of 3-5 years. We are in another. We may want to think on crypto markets, crypto winter that may be coming in 2 years or 1 year. If we want to add this vesting for 4 years, so we end up
No more winter.
everything vested.
No more winters. Only the sun is out now, and it's a bull market forever. No more winters.
I don't know. What do you think? What do you think about that, guys?
Yeah, I see it as 2 points in time that we really have to discuss, and then that creates the rest. I guess 3 things. So there's 2 points, and whether or not we want the cliff or if we want the zero, like start from 0 and have a slow thing. The original common stack design was there's a period of time where there's nothing, where you have the tokens, but you can't use them against the bonding curve at all. And then at day X, you get like just a tiny fraction of tokens, not this big cliff. Because the fear of this big cliff is that's the day everyone in the crypto market knows to sell before everyone gets access to their tokens. So it creates this special moment in time where speculators want to make moves. And so it's like, no, we're not looking to allow speculators to make moves. The dream is to just have 2 points in time. The point where the people who hatch the DAO start to get to sell some tokens, and then the point in time where they can sell all of their tokens.
And like kind of back to like Livia's question with that curve, it's so important with the people we get in early because they're generally going to put in the most. And as long as that curve doesn't parabolic too much and it's more gradual, the whole end will actually come back and level off. And then the amount of the actual, funding will continue to go up and settle. And you want that to be a slower process so we have more stability towards your project and more projects can get funded. So it's actually far more encouraging as an early investor, you're going to know this and you're going to want that curve to balance and you're going to want to take out later, because you're going to want to have max profits. You're not going to be in it to game it. And then the guys in the middle are the ones you're trying to kind of catch, because then they're going to be stuck there and they're not going to want to get out, because your hatch exit, your tax back to the funding will be too much for them because they didn't put enough in. So they're more encouraged to hang in there too. And then that'll be that end price, like Griff was saying, that's the one you want to capitalize on. And your early investors will understand that better than anybody. And then that's kind of be your point for them to take, and then everything goes back to where it should be. Does that make sense? Okay.
Cool.
Anybody else? Or should we get to the hatch refund? Because that's a big one.
No other questions on vesting?
I think we have to consider just a quick note here. We have to consider the overall situation of the crypto markets, not just what we want, but what's out there. I mean, people who's gonna be hatchers, they will also be investors in other, maybe investors in other crypto projects, and depending on what the market is doing, they may be willing to get out sooner or later. And having the sense that they will have their tokens locked there, maybe a problem, or may give them the sense that they don't want to have their tokens locked there for so long, and maybe be able to take them out when the market is not in a bull run anymore. So we have to consider that. That's my only point here. Make sure we put on the skin of the investors, not so much on just the skin of ourselves or our project.
With F 2.0 though now too, and staking F itself, like this, there really is a whole nother dynamic in all of this. I mean that's it's still crypto, but I think we're gonna see a lot more maturity quicker, if that makes sense, than we have in the last couple of years. And I think more people will be inclined with the advancements of DeFi to actually hold out and actually see what can actually develop. I don't think, I know the ginning will always be there and people will, game and do what, but I think we're going to get a lot more maturity in these markets faster than people expected. But that's just an opinion.
I just want to make
whatever it happens.
Sorry.
Just one quick thing. Whatever it happens, people can. It's not locking all their tokens during all the time. Maybe in 1 year they can already trade with half of their tokens. It's not that bad. Go ahead, Lydia.
I just want to make a quick cultural note that's one of the points that Ostrom talks about too, on how like everyone is inclined to want to have the quickest benefits. And when we want people to be looking in the long term, we have to provide a very sturdy cultural reason for that and have it very clear what is the long-term mission and how we're going to achieve that. So I think depending on the time of vesting that we choose, we need to have like a strategy, a cultural strategy to back that up and think about it like from now on.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing here. Sushi implemented 66% vesting for 6 months. These other DeFi protocols are understanding that when you just get the green frogs to come and play your game, they kind of just, it's a plague. So what's really nice about a strong vesting requirement, I think it's good to make sure that we respect the needs of the hatchers to have some freedom, maybe not make the cliff such a long period, but we should make sure that anyone who's in it, they know that they're in it for the long term. Having like a 2-year vesting sounds really cool to me. At least like you don't get all of your tokens until 2 years from now. And that way people are thinking about, token engineering is a nascent science. It's a field of study. It's going to be around for the next 100 years. So, I think it's important to make sure that they feel like they're part of starting this and that they're invested into it. But we'll see.
I also think that long times are interesting. For example, vesting, we are people who is putting Eth2 into the deposit contract, it's a best. It's they are locked there, the tokens, and people is doing that and are willing to do that.
Yeah.
Because it's a long-term project, the Eth2.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's 100% vesting for years. The cliff is 2 years or something.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
And I think too, with the more that goes on, people are starting to appreciate hold. And that's more people are starting to come around to the idea that if you'd have just kept your crypto from this time and that point, you'd be doing better off than jumping in now and jumping out later. I mean, it's just kind of the way it is. But hatch refund.
Okay. Let's go with the next. Okay. This is something that it's a discussion out there, but there is already an implementation for this. When the hatch fails, maybe we can share. Wait a sec. This is this is an image we did with Santi yesterday. The idea is that we are in that hatch DAO inside that egg, and people contribute to the hatch. So tech is minted for them, and the DAI that put inside, it's going to a temporary reserve. So if we reach the mean goal, we pass to the post-hatch phase. But if we don't reach that, we refund. And we refund all the DAI. But the discussion right now in that section is that, do we want to give part of that DAI to the impact our people, a kind of impact our compensation? We want to put it in the funding pool. Me and Santi were thinking that it doesn't have so much sense if we end up here in which we didn't reach the cap. We probably think, and that's all. Maybe in the future we retry another hatch. Maybe not. Jessica was also asking what happens if we don't reach the minimum cap. Probably we want to try it again later in the future, maybe 6 months from then. But it doesn't have so much sense, right? I don't know. What do you think, guys? If you were the ones who were proposing this
I think if we don't reach, a good option is like maybe get investors, but that invest through us. Like, for example, maybe we make people invest that are not necessarily in the project, but they invest through people that are in the project. So I think also the minimum is the same as the maximum, right? So, or not?
Well, actually not. Actually, we are splitting them up, and the minimum is going to be like the minimum we need. If we don't reach the minimum, the problem is that we cannot do anything else. It's like it's ended. And the thing is that nothing is going to be done with the money. So probably we have to refund everything, and that's all. And the people who were invested in impact hours, they just lose the impact hours. Maybe we think that in the next hatch we will give them the same impact hours that were already worked. Maybe that will be one of the solutions. But I think that as it is right now, it's already something that it's fine that we return everything because nothing is going to be done. Then in the post hatch, I don't know if you want me to continue with this.
Well, we got like 15 minutes, and I know impact hours is a big one. So if anybody's got questions about the refund for right now, otherwise, the basic just giving everybody back their die isn't, that's not horrible. But I mean, so let's get into impact hours.
Okay, and regarding this discussion, we just say what I was saying, and Santi, about returning the complete die, and maybe we take into account the impact hours worked in order to give tokens in the next hatch if it's successful.
Yeah, I think impact hours, there's also the circumstances that it's like, wait, we found a bug, we have to end, right? No one put money in, just like the funds will be refunded as long as we don't hit our cap. So like, just no one put money in. That's totally possible. Not likely, but it's possible. And there's 100 reasons why we might stop the hatch and restart. So I think just returning everyone's money as the default seems like the obvious answer.
I would like to skip impact hours because YCC is going to do the lab later, and he has been working on that. So I guess that it's much better to talk about that in the lab. And we only have 10 minutes, and we can talk about Dandelion voting parameters. What do you think, guys? Minutes per.
It would be
2 minutes per parameter.
Jake?
Well, it's important. It's a big deal to people, I mean, impact hours constantly comes up, and we're putting it off again. But I mean,
it's in 2 hours. The lab.
Okay.
And he has been
Well,
working
let's get down to Dandelion voting.
Okay. And in 2 hours we have the.
I think we will be in a much better position to talk about it next week after we have the lab in 2 hours. A lot of people will understand much better that.
Okay, so 2 minutes per parameter. We have a support required, which is like how much people has to vote yes in order to, well, not how much people. Between the people who is voting yes and the people who is voting no, if we have a super required of 50%, we need at least 51% of people voting yes. And we are not counting abstains here in the super required. I am doing a quick recap of everything, and then we discuss everything, okay? This is the support counting yes and no, but not abstains. Here, we are counting people who has voted. So we are counting that at least 5% of the people has voted. So this is like the minimum quorum. The vote duration, it can be 1 week, 24 hours, whatever. It's the time that people have to vote. The vote proposal buffer is something that Dandelion adds, and it's used because we cannot have 2 votes happening at the same time. So there is that buffer in which we give people, give the votes in order to go one after the other. It's like you can have 2 days a vote, then you wait 1 day, and then is when you can create a new vote and vote on that. Well, actually, the votes can be created, but they have to wait during that proposal buffer. It's like, let's space things a little bit. And the execution delay is the time that a vote that has been passed needs to rest, to sit before it can be actually executed. And the tollgate. The tollgate is we can talk about another tribute here. that is made in order to invocate a vote. Like if you want to do a vote, if you want the attention of all the community, then you have to pay some dice. And this is important to be high because, as you can see, because of this system, it is very easy to block the decisions if you do, because of Dandelion itself and also the proposal buffer. It's very easy that to block any discussion if you send spammy votes. You are actually blocking the DAO. So that toll gate has to be high.
So I don't think we should try to go into any of these, honestly, other than sell the idea of, hey, does anyone want to put these on the forum for us? Because the only Dandelion parameter that's on the forum right now is the support required. So I think Jake and I were going to have a hat sesh, right?
Yeah, this weekend we'd like to get as many people as involved as want to actually like commit to getting all of this out there.
Yeah, so we're going to do a deep dive this weekend, probably on Sunday, if that's cool with you, Jake.
That's fine with me.
Yeah, so does anyone want to take a deep dive into Dandelion with us on Sunday?
I mean, if I can.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tonga's in. Yeah, Daihi, you want in? Nice.
Pending the timing, I might be able to join. I'd like to if I can.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll try to keep it.
Everybody's coming to dance in the flowers.
Yeah, we'll try to keep it Europe friendly. It's a little Sunday morning, you know, right after church, guys. Come hang out with us. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Church is canceled. COVID. Anyway, well, we have 7 minutes left, and as much as I would love to go to Dandelion, I think we should put it on the. The one thing I do want to say about Dandelion is, I actually expect that we may have a couple different instances of Dandelion voting for different roles. And we can get into that more later, but I think it's important that different roles may have different requirements.
I also agree. I think that we need a very high support required in order to change parameters of the DAO. And then there are other things that doesn't require. It's like two chambers or something like that. No, actually it's the same chamber but different requirements. Like, well, I don't know the law in other countries, but some kind of laws in Spain, you need a higher. It's like the constitution, you know. In order to change the constitution, you need a very high support. And I think that in order to change the applications or whatever, or update applications, things like that, you need high support.
Yeah. But was there any of these? Does anyone have any questions about any of or comments on any of the hatch parameters that we can spend the last minutes on?
I would like to ask Sam because a few topics before he said that maybe we launched too late. What does it mean to launch too late, or what are the expectations? Because I think like it's better to take the time usually, but depends on many things, obviously.
Well, what I was saying at the beginning is that I didn't want to spend a lot of time discussing parameters because we will lose momentum, and we are in the right moment to have something and launch it instead of delaying so much. We need time to discuss. But we need to discuss the things that are important. And this is why we are setting up 4 sessions like that in order to discuss these things, and then we can, and that's all. Please come to the sessions. There are not going to be much more. So come in, join, learn, let's discuss, and then we begin with the who is it called? Holographic, no. The holistic proposals, and we will vote on them.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that gets it slow is not having a clear decision-making process. If you have a clear decision-making process, there can be debate, and it can be effectively time boxed by a clear process. So.
Okay.
Do you guys think that a forum poll would work well for deciding on the parameters, or should we put them on conviction voting? Maybe a forum poll would be better.
I think that there are parameters that are very independent. For example, I don't know, the name and the symbol of the token. It doesn't depend on the rest of the things. It is completely independent, and that could be a forum poll. It could be a signaling. I don't know.
I think hatch time is a good example of, and hatch return. They're both relatively independent. But anything to do with the economics, exit tribute, hatch tribute, vesting, all of these things really are interdependent, and you need to have the whole thing written out. And because some might say that exit tribute should be 2%, because we want to eventually unlock the token and like have good arbitrage opportunities with exchanges. It's like, okay, yeah, but then
what we can do is,
yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, then in my opinion, we better have a high hatch tribute, because we just like handicap the DAO on funding in the long run. A high hatch tribute and probably a small amount that can be spent at any one time that we call beta or maxing. And so like there's all these interdependent, and it's like each hatch proposal is really like another economic strategy for the next couple of years of this DAO. And there's no wrong strategy. You know, it's just we have to pick one. So yeah,
what are
go ahead.
Just going back on what are the independent ones that we could start a voting poll already? The hatch time.
I don't think that we should start any voting until we've gone through the whole system. Like people will be much more informed once they've participated in a hatch, then use Dandelion voting to add the augmented bonding curve and conviction voting to their DAO, and then like started voting and had the full thing, you know, like we'll be much more informed. I don't think we need to make any decisions in the next like month, at least until a few weeks before the launch.
Okay. Yeah. I also would go doing like separating the decisions in smaller ones, so we can begin with I don't know. Dandelion voting is pretty simple and independent of the rest. So we can begin with Dandelion voting. After we have been testing with it, we can one of the decisions can be what are the parameters of Dandelion voting, which are very, very independent of the rest. Things like that.
And then what are the roles that Dandelion voting holds? Like it's a huge one.
Top of the hour, everyone.
Okay.
Thanks for coming.
So yeah, see you next week. And during this week, you are going to hack on the forum. That's great.
Yeah. And right now, there's the legal sync. If you want, in the legal room,